Let's look at a function and evaluate some function values. So we've got a nice function here. F of x is 2x squared minus 3x. So what we're going to do to find f of 3, we're just going to take whatever is in, well, for all of these, we're just going to take whatever is in this position right here, and we're going to plop it in there for x. So for this one, I'm going to take that 3, and I'm going to put it everywhere I see x. I'm just going to use a different color here real quick. So we got 2 times 3 squared minus 3 times 3. Okay, so we can evaluate this pretty quickly, I think. So 3 squared, that's 9, times 2 is 18, minus 3 times 3 is 9, so we get 9. So we can say f of 3 is 9. All right, that wasn't so bad. When it's just regular old numbers, usually we're pretty comfortable with that. We just plug it in and crank it on out. So where the difficulty comes, in my mind at least, is when we've got non-numerical stuff in there. But we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to start ourselves out the same way. We're just going to plop in here, negative x. So we got negative x, and we have to be really careful with grouping symbols here. So heads up for that. So the 2, that's going to stay put. We've got negative x squared. So if we square a negative, it becomes positive. So this is just going to be negative 1 squared is 1, and then x squared is just x squared. And then we have negative 3x times negative 3 times negative x, which would be negative times negative is positive. And there you go. Okay, that wasn't so bad either. So if we had a non-numerical thing in there, it just worked the same way, right? We just plugged whatever is in this position right in there, and then we simplify. Okay, so let's do this again. So we've got 4x this time. And again, we're just doing the same process. We're just plugging in whatever that is right here. Okay, and now we can evaluate this. So we've got 2 times whatever this is. So that's 4 squared is 16. We got x squared. And then we have minus 3 times 4. So that's minus 12x. So I'm going to go a little bit off the page there. So I'll come down here. So we got 2 times 16. That's 32. X squared minus 12x. All right, so that is f of 4x. We just put 4x wherever we saw x in there, and we evaluated it. All right, well this one, let's come down here and do this so we're not running into each other there. So, all right, this one, these are usually a little more challenging just because there's more than one term in here. But just because there's more than one term in here doesn't mean we're going to change what the process is. We're just going to need to leave a little more space for what we plug in, right? And we're going to have to do a little bit more work. I didn't do it in green. There, now it's green. How pretty. Okay, so now I'm putting x plus 1 in here. All right, so at this point, this wasn't any more difficult than any of these. Where the difficulty comes is in things that we ought to know how to do, right? So we ought to know how to square this pretty quickly. There are nice formulas for this. All right, it's always the first thing squared plus 2 times the product of these two things plus the last thing squared. And then we got minus 3, and this is just a simple distribution. All right, we're just going to distribute the negative 3 in here. So we've got minus 3 times x is minus 3x. Minus 3 times positive 1 would be minus 3. And now we're going to do the same thing with our distribution here. So just to be clear about what I did there, if you want to do it like this, you absolutely can and do that FOIL business. But we absolutely know that if I square a sum, a binomial sum, every single time it works out like this. Every single time. Every time. And we can show that this is true by just multiplying it out like this and doing that FOIL method. But, sidebar, that's where this came from, right? All right, anyway, we know how to square a binomial. And now we're just kind of going through the motions, combining our like terms, right? So 2 times x squared, 2 times 2x, 2 times 1, and then these terms. And we combine them. So we've only got one squared term. We've got 4x minus 3x, that's just x. 2 minus 3 would be minus 1. All right, so we found it. F of x plus 1 after simplification is equal to that guy.